Hello everyone, this is POL 51, right? And we are doing now week 5. So this begins the second part of the class from week 5 to week 8, okay? So make sure that you do write all the discussion board entries, right, for the first 4 weeks already. That you interact with at least one more person, two people, right? You write some comments, give feedback, and so on. And also, very important, write your journal entries as well, okay? Because then those are the ones that I will grade with a letter grade, but all is important for the final grade. And you have in the syllabus, right, a paragraph on grading. If you have questions, ask. Okay, so today we do actually the part of the class that starts now is individual agency and action. I mean, that's the in the textbook, right? That's the part that you have that starts today with chapter 4, right? Chapter 4 in the textbook is on right, the question of civil liberties, and then chapter 5, civil rights. But in any case, they speak about both in chapter 4 as well. We are doing chapter 4, and then next time chapter 5. Also remember the discussion board entry for today, for this week, week 5, would be right, the Kamala Harris acceptance speech, right, at the Democratic Convention. But you can look also at the recent debate between Kamala Harris and the other candidate for the Republican Party, right, the Vice President currently. Pence. But in any case, make sure you do all these things, and let me say a few words. Again, I don't want this to be too long, but this is a great chapter as well in your textbook, right? You see that first of all, you have the picture of Edward Snowden. At the outset of the chapter 4, called Civil Liberties, and I actually edited the to give you more to possibly write about and choose from. I edited the discussion board for this week, I believe. I say, or where was it? Or actually, sorry, the journal. Okay, so when you go to the journal, you see that for week 5, I added as well, an option, right? Option 2. And I say, you can write on Edward Snowden precisely on the basis of what they say in chapter 4 of the textbook, and also you can do some research, okay, and say what you think about what Snowden did some years ago, right, and what you think about the question of whether he or anyone, whether he was right to inform, right, the American people and people all over the world of the surveillance program, right, of by the NSA, the National Security Agency. Say what you think about that, or you can stay with option 1, in which I have I put 2 questions that you should answer. Um, in the journal entry is a kind of mini essay, basically. Okay, that's where you had to think of, write something in the order of at least 100 to 100 words. Okay, so in any case, Edward Snowden, they speak about, the author speaks about Edward Snowden here on page 107. I highlighted some words, some passages for you, and then he goes back to Edward Snowden later. Okay, so you see that the chapter outline, again, I had to be sketchy, but just to give you a sense, you read, especially the highlighted parts, not only, and then make up your mind in relation to what you need to write. Okay, so chapter outline: what are civil liberties, securing basic freedoms, the rights of suspects, and then the interpretation of right, the Bill of Rights, and there is also a distinction that they make early on between civil rights and civil liberties and civil rights. In any case, the introduction begins with precisely a remark on Snowden. Read that, and on the widespread surveillance conducted, by the agency he was working for. Ultimately, right? That this is what also made it possible for him to do so, but also the problem, right? That do some research about Snowden, and see what you think of him. Okay, so but what I want to go over the question of civil liberties precisely, right? You see that there are some remarks on the question. We saw the Constitution last time, I believe, no, with also the question of the revolution, the Constitution. Last time we saw in chapter 2, right, the war for independence, and then the making of the writing of the Declaration, to which we'll go back, the Constitution and so on, okay? So then the question of freedom, defining civil liberties, and there is here, this is page, for you, 108. That's an interesting distinction that you will think more about. Civil liberties, civil rights. Okay, civil liberties, I'm reading as being limitations on government power intended to protect freedoms that governments may not legally intrude on. And this is very important in relation to, if you will, the society of control, the surveillance society in which we live, increasingly so worldwide, really. Okay, so in any case, then civil rights, on the other hand, are guarantees that government, again, I'm reading, officials will treat people equally, and that decisions will be made on the basis of merit rather than race, gender, or other personal characteristics. Okay, so I mean, there is an important distinction there. Think about that. So then there is a reference to the Declaration of Independence, the idea that, and a reference to Thomas Jefferson, right, who wrote this in 1776, right? That's the year of independence. Okay, so the idea that Americans, indeed people in general, have fundamental rights and liberties was at the core of the arguments in favor of their independence. Okay, so in writing the Declaration of Independence, which we are going to read in 1776, Thomas Jefferson drew on the idea of John Locke, whom we have already studied, right, to express the colonists' belief that they had certain inalienable, we spoke about this word, or natural rights that cannot be taken away, that no ruler had the power or authority to deny to his or her subjects. Okay, so that's basically the idea. So what protects these civil liberties would be, something like an idea, a principle of this type. Okay, the idea of natural rights and liberties. Okay, so in particular, then you read this as well, Jefferson's words, right? All men, which is then I will speak about the problematic aspect of this. Okay, all men are created equal, right? That everybody knows this. The outset of right the declaration, but problematic as a statement. We will speak more about this. Became not problematic because of not in the literal level the way it's written too, but also because of the implications at the level of history, politics, and so on, and the context. Okay, became the centerpiece of struggles for the rights of women and minorities, okay, in a problematic way. So, in any case, then civil liberties, the Constitution, written, the Constitution, you will remember, in 1787, right? So, 10 years after the Declaration of Independence, and the textbook says, we probably saw this last time, did not include a Bill of Rights, and then you have a series of even examples, times in which people were denied of some fundamental liberties and rights. One of the examples is during World War II, right? The Roosevelt administration, right, interned Japanese Americans and had other suspected enemy agents, including U.S. citizens, tried by military courts rather than by civilian justice system. And then you have this other example. More recently, you can think about these things when you write, okay, and say what you say, what you think of this very important problem. Okay, more recently, in the wake of I'm reading the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, the Bush and the Obama administrations, right, detained suspected terrorists, right, captured both within and outside the United States, and sought with mixed results to avoid trials in civilian courts, right? Okay, so think about this as well. Hence, there have been times in our history when national security issues trumped individual liberties. Okay, so think about this. People speak about the question of freedom versus security, privacy versus security. So, I mean, the question of security, national security, we saw that also at the beginning of this course, right, with Thomas Hobbes. That's why I wanted to also use Hobbes, although he is not in an explicit, formal way as important as Locke, John Locke, in the development of American political thought, but he is very important as well. The question of state security, national security is very important and very much related to the theory of sovereignty that we saw in Hobbes as well. In any case, you have other examples. We can't read everything together. There is a very interesting reference to the question of, and then the textbook goes into a reading of the amendments and so on. But the question of slavery, page 113, right, that was precisely abolished by the 13th Amendment. So that's one, important reference that you have. And then I read also the 14th, the question of the 14th Amendment.